Let's go to the Big Ten and Ohio State also having their spring game next Saturday. Ohio State coming off the loss to Michigan, first time in almost a decade they've come off that. They gave up 40-plus in that one. They gave up 40-plus to Utah in the Rose Bowl. What are they doing defensively to try to get back to their standards?
Well, they brought in a defensive coordinator from an OSU, just not Ohio State University, Oklahoma State University, and Jim Knowles. And he's going to bring that 4-2-5 scheme that was one of the best in the country last year, not just in the Big 12, but really when you look at them getting off the field on third down and also pass coverage, all those metrics that you're looking for. So there's a lot to bring into Ohio State. I think the difference is, though, the talent that he's got to work with. And this is not a slight to the talent at Oklahoma State, but you're talking about one of the tops as far as what's been recruited, what we've seen move on to the next level in the draft. And again, this is a scheme that's typically 4-2-5, meaning you're playing more of that kind of nickel personnel, a lot of times big nickel, playing with three safeties, which Ohio State has the ability to do that with what they've recruited. Ronnie Hickman will be one of the safeties that ends up playing there on the back end. You're going to see Cameron Brown as well. But the grad transfer from Oklahoma State, Tanner McAllister, he's going to be the other player that's going to be really a coach in the back end, helping out that secondary in Jim Knowles' transition with this defensive scheme. But linebackers have been a problem for them. Can Jim Knowles get the best out of that group? And then who's going to be the next Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, Chase Young, most likely playing that Leo position that we oftentimes see for Oklahoma State, which is that weak defensive end position, showing out. So for me with Ohio State, it's not so much about the offensive questions. Like we've seen that all the time, DK, whether it's C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Marvin Harrison Jr., all these talented players they've got on offense. It's about the defense. Can they get that group back rolling again to play at a high enough level to give them a shot at a national championship?
I'm very worried about the Ohio State offense. Are they going to be the most prolific offense we've ever seen or not is the question I think we're going to be asking. I mean, what we saw on display at the Rose Bowl against Utah without all those receivers that are now going to be in the NFL draft was just a glimpse of what you're going to see this year. I mean, C.J. Stroud, the favorite for the Heisman, but he's going to be competing against Travion Henderson in the backfield and Jackson Smith and Jigba that you talked about. For me, this team, I think the question is going to be, can they get enough out of their defense? I think you bring up a great point, too. Where has been the impact player that is a top 10 pick like a Bosa brother or like a Chase Young? And even more so, what happened to them against Michigan? If they're going to beat Michigan and they want revenge and kind of get back to owning this rivalry, Michigan, for the first time in a while, took it to them physically. So they're going to have to step up and respond in kind. And I'm sure they're addressing that, but we thought it was going to be a guy like Jack Sawyer, who was a freshman last year. Does he develop? Zach Harrison, you mentioned, does he develop? Somewhere along the defensive line, do they get the production and the dominance that they had previous in the 6-year run or 7-year run, whatever it was, that Ohio State was owning that rivalry? But to me, the offense has zero concerns. It's going to be how spectacular they are. Can the defense get enough in the games that matter, the more physical games in the Big Ten, like Michigan, some of the other opponents they're going to face, and Notre Dame that's coming to town week 1, they're going to get tested early. That, to me, is the defense good enough to win a national championship? Because that's the barometer. Ohio State is a great pick to win the national championship this year. If you want to pick somebody not named Alabama or Georgia, they'll be the favorites in the Big Ten. To me, is the defense championship caliber, because the offense, without question, is.
There's no doubt about it. I think one of the most interesting things, too, about that defense and what it's going to look like, when you look at that week 1 matchup, they're taking on Notre Dame. Should be a very familiar opponent for Jim Knowles. He just played Notre Dame in the bowl game. He was the DC for Oklahoma State. So there's going to be a lot of cat and mouse, I think, in that opening game as to how those two teams score off versus one another, given that you've got the priority of installing your defense and seeing how that's going to mix in with the personnel and talent you have as compared to facing the same team you just saw basically a year ago, even though there will be a new quarterback for Notre Dame and obviously some other pieces as well. But it will be fascinating to see how Jim Knowles handles that, taking on the Irish in week 1 of this college football season.
You guys bet earlier. Brady took, Miami to win more games
for sure
than Florida
more
State.
games than Florida State.
How about can we do Notre Dame? A Notre Dame, Florida State? Danny, would you do that?
Notre Dame will
well?
have more wins than it's not even close. It's not even close.
Let me see. I'm going to watch Florida State practice. I'm going to the spring game. Then I'll get back to you. But I'm
Danny's
guessing
hoping
right
to be
now,
bowl eligible.
probably.
You're just hoping to be bowl eligible at this point.
We'll see.
All right.
we
Danny
will
I'm
see.
not taking that bet, to your point. I mean, this cakewalk schedule Notre Dame plays, I don't want to touch that.
Oh, that's not until next year, right? When we start off with a season opener.
you start bringing in the
sub
FCS
non-FBS opponent. Yeah, we can talk about that later. Trust me.
Yeah, don't get Brady going on that.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.